Ishak. The revelation stopped for some time, so that the apostle was distressed and grieved. Then Gabriel brought him the morning, in which he swore that he had not forsaken him, and did not hate him.
The following insight is from Madhuri.
The surah's theme is to console the prophet and remove his anxiety, which had been caused by the suspension of revelation. By swearing an oath by the morning and night, he was reassured. Then he was given the good news that the hardships he was experiencing in the initial phase of his mission would not last long. Soon Allah would bless him so abundantly that he would be pleased.
This is nonsense. Muhammad hadn't suffered any hardships on account of his mission thus far, because there had been no mission. All that had happened was a bout in a cave with an angry spirit, a nonsensical revelation, some panic, Khadijah's scheme, a blind man's blessing, and a little boasting around town. But Muslims, needing an excuse for the Prophet's morose and suicidal behavior, were willing to contradict Allah's revelation to give their hero an alibi. Let's dive into the surah so you can see what I mean.
Quran 93, verse 1. I swear by the early hours of the day, and the night when it covers with darkness. Your Lord hath not forsaken thee, nor doth he despiseth thee.
Whoa, time out. Why the King James 17th century English? Do you suppose the words thy, hath, forsaken, thee, and doth despiseth are being used in these translations to make the Quran seem biblical? Just speculation on my part, but for readability's sake I'll endeavor from now on to make the Lord's words more intelligible. Let's move on. Now that we doth verily know that the Lord doth sweareth, but hath not forsaken, although it beeth a mystery why he doth despiseth thee not, and why he loveth the darkness. But here's a clue. Satan is the morning star, the prince of darkness.
Quran 93, verse 4. Surely what comes after is better for you than the present or that which has gone before. Soon will your Lord give you so much you shall be well pleased. Did he not find you an orphan and protect you, and find you lost and perplexed and show you the way? Did he not find you poor and made you rich?
Times can't be so bad that God has to bribe prophets. He can't really think the blood clot revelation was direction. Muhammad could barely find his way home, and if the Lord had already enriched Muhammad, why is his present so bleak? Or better question, since Muhammad had the childhood from hell, how was he protected? Is God's memory failing? Or is Muhammad's spirit endorsing Khadijah's profitable prophet plan? He found you poor and made you rich. This is a good place to give you my interpretation of the Gospel according to Khadijah. Stick with me, kid, and I'll make this prophet gig profitable. I can't prove it, mind you, but it makes more sense than this coming from God. Having married money twice and climbed the social ladder of Mecca, Khadijah was in trouble. Her fortunes were dwindling, while her absentee husband employee sulked in caves. Having made a fortune selling trinkets to the Hajj pilgrims at the pagan fairs surrounding the Kaaba, Khadijah knew all about religious scams. So she had motive, means, and opportunity. What's more, her behavior was consistent with my theory. According to Aisha's testimony in the Hadith and Ishaq's in the Sirah, Khadijah was the real founder of Islam. Muhammad believed that he had been possessed by a demon. He was scared to death. She converted him to Islam, usurping her nearly dead cousin's credibility. Remember what she said?
No, never, it can't be. Be happy. I swear by Allah that he shall never humiliate you. Truly, I hope you will be the prophet of this people. Allah will not bring you to shame.
Let's review the facts. The caravan business Khadijah owned owed its prosperity to Allah's recently restored pagan rock shrine. It stood not more than 100 meters from where this conversation took place. Mecca provided one of the very few wells, shallow as it was, for caravans moving goods from the ports of Yemen to Syria. While that was good, no one becomes rich caring for folks passing through town. So the Kaaba became Mecca's meal ticket. Muhammad's great-great-great-grandfather Qusay had gained control over the idol temple and organized the annual pilgrimage to the shrine. He collected a tax from every Arab attendee. While a religious tax was a profitable idea and one that made its way into Islam, the series of economic fairs Qusay arranged surrounding the Hajj proved to be his most capitalistic venture. Papa Muttalib, Muhammad's grandfather, the one who sacrificed camels to the Kaaba idols at a sorcerer's urging, ultimately gained control over the concession to feed and water the pilgrims. He became the recipient of the religious tax, something that made him even richer. As the Kaaba's custodian, he pocketed big bucks, charging Arab chiefs rent for housing their sacred stones. He charged them more for visitation rights, and still more for their god's care, feeding, watering, and dusting services. The combination served to make the merchants of Mecca rich, by Bedouin standards anyway. Khajidah was a beneficiary, so she told Muhammad, "Better than being the Kaaba's custodian, you are Allah's prophet, and that's more prestigious and profitable than being a recluse, my dear." A hadith entitled,
Khadijah the First to Believe,
contained these incriminating lines.
Muhammad was to tell them of his Lord's bounty to himself. Of the bounty of your Lord let your discourse be.
This was followed by,
Thereupon the messenger began to proclaim Allah's bounty to himself.
Ishaq Surah reports,
Khadijah was the first to believe in Allah and his apostle. By her Allah lightened the burden on his prophet. He never met with contradiction and charges of falsehood, but he was comforted by her when he went home. She strengthened him and belittled the opposition.
Khadijah believed in Allah before Muhammad did, because Allah was her meal ticket. And while she conceived the prophet idea, she had to endure a great deal just to keep God's messenger going. His
contradictions
prompted
charges of falsehood.
We have already discovered these echoing throughout the hadith. So Khadijah
belittled the opposition.
This made her the inspiration for the Quran's overwhelming propensity to condemn Muhammad's opponents, threatening them with doom. Testimony in support of the profitable prophet plan can be found throughout Tabari's history.
During the Jahiliyyah, I came to Mecca and stayed with Abbas bin Muttalib. The sun rose while I was looking at the Kaaba. A young man,
that would be Muhammad,
came up and gazed at the sky. He turned to face the Kaaba. Soon after, a woman,
Khadijah,
and a youth,
Ali,
came and stood behind him. The young man bowed, and the woman and youth bowed. Then the man stood erect, followed by the woman and the youth. The young man prostrated himself, and they did the same. Abbas asked, "Do you know what this is?" "No," I answered. "This is Khadijah, my nephew's wife. He has told me his Lord has commanded them to do what you see them doing. Allah's oath, I do not know anyone on the face of the earth but these three who follow this religion." I asked Abbas, "What is this religion?" He answered, "This is Muhammad bin Abdallah, who claims that Allah has sent him as his messenger with this religion, and that the treasures of Croesus and Caesar will be given to him by conquest."
This is an incriminating confession. It is an admission of guilt, proof that Islam was created by a wannabe pirate. I'd like to linger on this hadith a moment. I'm surprised that the Islamic scriptures would confess to the profitable prophet plan so openly. This is the first explanation of the motivation behind Muhammad's religion. And we're told that it was conceived to steal treasure by way of conquest. While this is confirmed countless times in Medina, we're still in Mecca, just 3 partial surahs into the Quran. And Tabari's hadith does not stand alone. Ishaq reveals a similar tradition, only his is more direct.
When I was a merchant, I came to Mecca during the Hajj pilgrimage. While I was there, a man came out to pray and stood facing the Kaaba. Then a woman and a boy came out and stood praying with him. I asked, "What is their religion? It is something new to me." Abba said, "This is